Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. I have to tell you, when I bought this off the rack, I thought this was the weirdest thing I had ever seen, and a lot of people did too. The New Mutants number 51. Now, what makes this issue so different is that Kevin Nowlan is who does this cover, also did the inside. Now, during this era of comic books, Kevin Nolan's art is it sticks out like a sore thumb. Okay, it was weird. I had never seen that. This is the first exposure I ever had to Kevin Nolan. During this time, I was still growing up in Puerto Rico. I was going to be moving to Florida, and in Puerto Rico, we did not have comic book stores. And when I moved to Florida, that was my first encounter with comic book stores. And so, New Mutants in 1987, number 51. Um, excuse me. Have fond memories of this because I just remembered looking at this issue. Of all things I have picked up in my life, this one I still remember looking at it going, "What?" I mean, I picked this off the rack. My grandfather on weekends would take me to the naval base, and I would buy comic books in there. So um yeah, just um it was just something that we would do together. And yeah, I picked this off the rack, and I've been enthralled ever since. I am a huge fan of Kevin Nolan. I just had never seen anything like it, and a lot of people I don't think at Marvel. So according to letter pages that come up in other issues, other people had a huge problem with Kevin Nolan's art. And I understand, but now as an adult, I'm looking at it going, God, it's beautiful. I'm a huge fan of Kevin Nolan. It just was kind of weird back in the day. So, guest starring Professor X and the Starjammers. And so we start out here at Xavier's mansion here, and Chris Claremont saying students once laughed. The X Men's rooms are deserted as silent. The New Mutants in the mansion's opposite wing. So there's nobody there. You see Danny's room. The danger room hasn't been used in a while. Now, keep in mind that this takes place after the Mutant Massacre saga, and we know that Rogue and Psylocke, Longshot, and Dazzler have gone to take the remaining Morlocks that were injured, plus Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Kitty Pryde. So they're in Muir Island, where Moira McTaggart is going to help them out. And so Storm and Wolverine are the only X Men left in the U.S., and Storm is out with Wolverine. And so nobody's in there. Magneto isn't in there. I said Magneto, not Magneto. And so we see here, so we saw Danny's room. We see the danger room. We see Magneto's office here. Um, and so um, so no, they don't. He doesn't know where the New Mutants are. They've disappeared. So he is like, well, maybe finally he didn't want to give up that they were dead, but he's kind of coming to. So we are now moving on into outer space, and we I have a playlist. So if you are wondering how the New Mutants got here, feel free to check out the videos that I have posted. I have every issue of the New Mutants from one to current, even the first appearance in the Marvel graphic novel. I have every appearance of the New Mutants, and so Warlock eventually faced off against his dad in issue 50, and so they're now with the Starjammers. So the New Mutants and the Starjammers are working together right now. And so we have, I almost said Captain Marvel. We have Carol Danvers, who is now Captain Marvel, but at this time was binary. And she's asking, are we space worthy, Captain? And Corsair, who is the father of Cyclops, says, barely. I was counting on repairs facilities here to pull the ship back together. No planet, binary. No yards, no repairs. And so he asks Chod for a status, and he says, could be worse. We can still run, Corsair, but any fight is a lost cause. Now, real quick, this is what I mean. Kevin Nowlan has some of the most unique eyes. Everybody's very unique. All artists are unique. Now, some artists can look a little bit like others, so there are similarities. Kevin Nowlan is one of those that is unique. There is no one else that I have seen that draws like Kevin Nowlan. For example, Brian Boland is quite unique himself, but I've always thought Ethan Van Sciver is a very close um, interpretation of Brian Boland. I've seen people that try to draw like Mike Mignola as well, or Mignola. I always said Mignola, and then I learned it's Mignola. Um, so I've seen other artists, but I've never seen anyone draw like Kevin Nowlan. Kevin Nowlan is probably the most unique comic book artist out there. From the eyes, the way he composes the inking, just so different here. So, all right. So we're now at the infirmary, and we see Lilandra, and she's the former empress of the Shi'ar Empire, and we're doing basically a setup where everyone here is going to mind link with Professor Xavier here, and this is Xavier's very first, not first appearance. Obviously, he showed up, I think, in issue 50, or a couple issues before that. But prior to that, issue 200 of Uncanny X-Men. So Chris Claremont basically kept him off the table for a little bit of time, and then he won't show up again after this until um, Jim Lee takes over toward the end of the Uncanny X-Men run. So, anyway, so we're gonna start side probing everybody here so that he can just get everything. And so Lilandra says, initiate the side probe. And of course, she's in love and he's in love with her, so they're in love with each other. And so Claremont tells us that he's a telepath, and he's gonna look into their thoughts. And so we get a wonderful double page spread, Teacher's Choice, starting the New Mutants. And so we have I see the credits here, but where's Chris Claremont and um oh, okay, right here. So right here, So we have Tom Rzakowski, letterer. Tom Rzakowski deserves an award for lettering, one of the wordiest writers in comic books. And so Glynis Oliver, Anna Senti, and Jim Shooter. And then here it says a special issue of the New Mutants brought to you by Chris Claremont and Kevin Nowlan. It's offbeat, it's different, and we know you're gonna love it. Well, apparently a lot of people didn't love it, and I was indifferent to it. I just thought it was weird. Comic books to me were John Byrne, were Walter Simonson, were John Romita Jr. You know, these artists that Tom McFarlane hadn't jumped into scene yet. Jim Lee hadn't jumped into scene yet. Neil Adams. Um, so even Bill Sienkiewicz took me forever and a day to get used to it. I wasn't used to Bill Sienkiewicz, Klaus Janson. These are all the Sal Buscema, John Buscema, um, George Perez. So there those are the type of artists that week in and week out I'm looking at. Frank Miller, um, and when you throw Kevin Nolan, and this is like I said, the very first thing he's ever drawn. Man, this thing just looked so freaking weird to me. Now, it's a good weird nowadays, but man, when you're a kid, when you're like 12 years old, it just you're like, what the heck is this? So and so they're looking at the mutant massacre here. He's looking at them through his student's eyes here, and the X Men being injured. So of course we have Colossus, Nightcrawler. Here we've got the Morlocks. I think this is Callisto here and Sonder. And Xavier is like, no. And um, he's seeing the kids look at a commercial of X Factor, who are the original X Men, and but they're mutant hunters, and this guy's like Clark Kent here, and so he's seeing a commercial of them, and of course we have Cyclops and Angel, Iceman, and Beast, and of course Jean Grey. And Xavier goes, "This madness, it cannot be true. That X Factor, they are my first students, the original X Men." Of course, he's like, "No." Um, and so you can see that he's distraught here. Nice panel here. You can see that she's gonna put his hand on him. He's like, "Dear Lord in heaven, I beg you, please let it not be so." And of course, Lilandra's like, "Charles, beloved," and they embrace, and he says, and she asks, "What did you see?" And Xavier says, "Horror beyond comprehension." And so he tells her what's going on, and he's like, "How could those five have become foes of the very people I brought them to protect?" Now, I have a X Factor playlist, and we all know, of course, that X Factor is pretending to be mutant hunters so they can capture mutants and help train them inside their facility. But he doesn't know that. And so she asks, "What will you do?" And he says, "I have no choice. I must go back with the New Mutants to Earth." And of course, this is so neat as they're separated because, of course, she wants to be with him and he wants to be with her, but stuff keeps happening. And so it's just not meant to be. And so we're back on Earth and we see this ship during late hurricane season. It says it caught everyone by surprise. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in Puerto Rico and then Florida. Hurricanes don't sneak up on people. I don't care how fast they form. People know. Even in the 80s, it wasn't the Dark Ages. Hurricanes do not just show up and go boo. All right. Most people know when there's potential for a hurricane, even in late season. So, but that's all right. We needed to have a part for the story. And so here we have a Storm, and she's like, "What a night, what a ride! Howl, you winds, do your worst. I care not. Storm ruled you once, I shall do so again." And so it says here, as the X-Men's leader life with wild madcap abandon, you see this energy flash here, and it is Magneto. The reason I say Magneto is magnet with an O. It's not Magneto. Magneto would be Magneeto. It's magnet with an O. Just because Stan Lee doesn't know how to pronounce things that he created, it doesn't matter. He said Magneto, so everybody assumes it's Magneto. It's Magneto. This is what I mean about Kevin Nolan. Look at this. Look at this face. This is just wow. And so, um, he's trying to help the ship here, but um, the iron or the steel rips here, and he's got Storm here, and then uses that stuff to create a storm surge here, and that will probably long outlast the community it shelters. And Storm says, if her evening's work, it is satisfying every now and again to truly do some good to help ordinary people. And so Magneto says, except if those self same people knew that mutants were responsible, they'd probably blast our handiwork to bits. And Storm says, you are too cynical, my friend. And Magneto says, and you far too trusting. We're both, Ororo, what our paths have made us, for better or worse. And what determines, um, and what we are determines what will be. The Hellfire Clump stands amongst the deadliest foes of Xavier's school and the X-Men. And so you can see him picking up this medal. Yet they have invited me to join their Lord Cardinals as the White King. And then Storm asks, will you accept the offer? And so this is what I mean. So between, um, where was it? Between this head here and now this, where he actually looks a little chubby. It's just Kevin Nolan's a weird cat, man. That and this art, it's fantastic. If you guys go Google Kevin Nolan's covers, man, they are this dude is a master. Okay, I love him. Um he inspires me. He is one of those artists that inspire me. So, um anyway, so she asked him if he will accept, and he goes, I do not know. And so Storm says it would neutralize the club as a threat to us. They would be unlikely to attack one of their own, and an alliance would further protect the school from the marauders. And who knows, you might prove a beneficial positive influence on the White Queen students or Hellions, and possibly inspire them to follow Xavier's code of ethics and conduct rather than the Hellfires. And so Storm says, "You want me to?" I'm sorry. Magneto says, "You want me to accept?" And then Storm continues, "The Hellfire Club is privy to the secrets of every government on Earth. Your presence among their high command, the Lord's Cardinal, will permit the X-Men to access them. That will prove as invaluable asset once we execute Plan Omega," she says. And so, eminently logical. I wish I was convinced, says Magneto. See how easily my powers reformed that trident into the helmet I wore as a supervillain. Real quick, I don't think that these people, if they were real, and I understand it's comic books, they're not real, I don't particularly think that Magneto would view himself as a supervillain. I think he viewed himself as a defender of mutants, whose tactics clashed with Xavier's, but I believe that he would have seen himself as a hero, just with different perspective. So anyway, So Magneto says, if I step once more into the shadows, Storm, no matter how noble my motives, what is to prevent me from reverting to my old ways? And Storm says, I have faith in you. And so he leaves with the helmet there. It says, more I suspect than I have in myself. So now back to the Starjammer ship. And so we're gonna get the New Mutants here. So you see this really cool with these asteroids here in the ship. And so Cypher tells Warlock that they got enough raw materials to patch that hole, and so they put it in there. And here's Cannonball taking this module into the cargo bay, and he's just like, man, working with space and with aliens. This is like a best science fiction. And then here we see Magma. She's trying to seal the breach with her lava blast, and so Lilandra thinks here that the repairs are going faster than they expected, and she knows that Xavier will depart, and that if he does, she's never gonna see him again. And Hepzibah here is still complaining. She blames Lilandra for everything. There, she's like, "We're privateers. We are freebooters, not rebels in a hopeless cause," meaning to try to help her to get Lilandra's throne back. And so Lilandra kind of bites back and says, would you rather see my sister on the throne? Remember, Hepzibah, she's not called Deathbird for nothing. And Hepzibah says, couldn't care less, I. Imperium has rules it deserves. If Lilandra wants throne, only proves she just as crazed as sister. And so, rot luck been ours full measure since you joined. And suddenly, pow! And so Lilandra punched her, and she's done. I'm done with your sniping, woman, and your hate. I had no part in the destruction of your world. And so he says, Pax the pair of you. Pax means peace in Latin. Hate if you must for what I am, not for what I represent. And so Wolfsbane uses her, or not her, Xavier's, they're silent, so she shows up and she says, Trouble, come quickly. So Xavier says, what's the matter? And says, your thoughts are chaotic for me to read. And Wolfsbane says that it's Ileana. I fear it's my fault, only I don't know what I did to her. So Ileana's locked herself in the room and she can't get her out. And so Xavier says, let me try it. So he calls her and she says, go away, get out of my head and leave me alone, or I'll teleport myself to limbo. I mean it, and leave you all behind. And Mirage says, I've never heard her panicked or hysterical. This is bad, sir. I think she's serious. And Karma says, we cannot let her strand us, my friends. And Xavier says, and we will not. Karma, I'll give you entry to Ileana's mind so you can possess her and make her unlock the door. And man, this is just head, this face. Man, this is why people hated this issue. Let me tell you, it was different. Like I said, I remember this issue quite vividly, looking at this going, what the hell? And so uh Mirage says, Professor, no, there has to be a better way. And Xavier says, with respect, Mirage, while you are co-leader of the New Mutants, I am your teacher. I believe I know what's best. Karma, if you please. And she says, I have her. And so I love this. I love the black up here. And he goes, she says, she's out now. Let her go. And Xavier says, in a moment. And so he wants to know what is wrong. And she says, I don't want to go back to limbo. The dark side of myself is there, the part of me that's evil. Here on the Starjammer, I'm free, the girl I should have been. I want to stay and be normal and happy. Is that so much to ask? And Mirage says, satisfied, you got your lousy pound of flesh. And he's like, don't take that tone with me. And so Mirage snaps back. This wasn't necessary. And so Karma lets her go. And Mirage is not too happy, and Danny tries to console her. And Mirage says, "You got your answers, Professor. Were they worth the pain?" And Xavier thinks she's right. I trained her to think that way, but I must explain myself, he says here. And Xavier goes, "Would you rather be trapped here, Mirage? Possibly for the rest of." And then he stops, "By the Eternal." And he gives orders for Cannonball to return. And he goes, "Hurry up." And he says, "Binary, make sure the children get safely." And Xavier says, "Epsilon, ignite the main engines, full emergency thrust, and activate the defensive shield's maximum strength." And she does, and so they're moving, and they're like, "Scan scopes all clean, no contacts." And then suddenly there's this big thing, and he's like, "My eyes!" And it's like a nuclear explosion here, and so um, Binary, the future Captain Marvel, grabs Magma and Cannonball, and they're like, "Man, if the professor hadn't warned us," and they're like, "How'd he know?" And so Epsiba says, "No response. All sensors, local space clean." And Xavier says, "Yeah, we are under attack. 12 vessels. A Shi'ar fast hunter, a group using electronic cloaks to mask their presence from our sensors. Fortunately, however, they cannot hide their thoughts to me. I sense the commander ordered to fire. Their excitement, their lust for kill, lowers the natural psi resistance and gives me easier access to mind." And so that's what's happening. They're being attacked here. And so as the ship pitches up, Cannonball kind of loses his balance here, and Binary is going to help him here. And Chad here, who looks like he has a mustache here. That this is just so different. He'd go, "Man, be nice if we could shoot back." And of course, there's like, "With what, Chad? Our guns were wrecked in the last fight." And Xavier says they're attempting an englobement maneuver. And Absabat says, "They succeed, we soon be spiked to component atoms." And Xavier says, "Go dead in space. Stop us right where we are." And so they're gonna do a couple maneuvers here. I'm just gonna kind of move on because I've kind of talked. This video is probably a little bit longer than I want it to be, but mostly because Kevin Nolan's art is so different. I really wanted to make sure to convey how it felt reading this the first time as a kid who had no idea about Kevin Nolan. Um, so you can see everybody kind of losing their balance as the ship is doing all these different maneuvers. And so Xavier's like, "I'm mentally projecting a tactical overview of our situation for you all to see." And Corsair's like, "They're very good, that gang. We're staying ahead of their game, but only barely. And all thanks to you, Xavier. You're our edge, our ace in the hole. Without you, we're done. Even with you, nothing's certain, but at least we have a chance." And Xavier says, "Corsair, you heard what occurring back on Earth. I'm needing there desperately." And so they don't want him to leave, basically. And so um we could delay your return until after the Starjammer's out of danger. And Xavier says, "Suppose we don't escape. The New Mutants are children, Lalandra. Above all else, their life must be safeguarded." And so I love this in silhouette as the two share an embrace. Um, and so it's very a lot of confliction here. What if the children of this galaxy, it's all like, whichever pathway I choose, then Xavier says I lose as he walks away here. So the kids are ready to go, and Binary says, "Are you going?" And so he starts weighing in on these things, and still gives them orders, and he decides he's gonna stay because the Starjammers need him, and for magic to teleport everybody home. And she's like, I won't do it. I can't go back to limbo without you to give me strength. Please don't make me. And he's like, yeah, I can't go. And says, Karma, make sure it's done. And so Karma's a good soldier, and so she does. And so she makes her do it. And he hopes that she will be able to get him. And so um, and Sam says, however long it takes, sir, we'll be waiting. And he says, thank you, Sam. You have no idea how much that means to me. And he's like, okay, chum, you saved your kids. Now do the same for us. And so we actually don't get an answer, but we know, of course, that they do because Xavier ends up coming back and everybody's alive. So, all right, at Xavier's mansion, and the New Mutants have returned, and Eliana's super mad and disappears. She's like, "Never, I'll never forgive you for that. And when I get back from limbo, I'm gonna make you pay." And Cannonball's like, she's mad. And Danny says, "Wouldn't you be Sam if you'd been used that way?" And Sam says, "Schools feels empty. I wonder how long we've been gone." And what's happened says, and Sam says, "We'll find out soon enough, my friend. Come on, you glumps, cheer up. We're home. We're all okay. Even Magic, once she calms down. Our school's still intact. How bad could things be?" Oh, buddy, it's comic books. They can always be bad. And so we're down to the last two pages, and so Magneto wears the White King garbs, and he's like, I feel like an idiot. And so he tears it off, and this is what I mean. He draws them portly, and that's really cool, but it's just so different. And so he's like, I'm not gonna do it uh in their uniform. So he comes dressed as this, and he says that he is going to join them. And so um they're like, and he says, the last of the four Lord Cardinals who rule the Hellfire Club. So he's joining. Long may you reign. And so he thinks here, enjoy your independence, X-Men, while it lasts. But as Black King, I swear the day will yet come when you'll bond yourselves to Hellfire in spirit as well as flesh, with all your heroic hearts and soul. And then Celine goes, poor Shaw, as if his Black Queen wasn't rival enough. Now he has to contend with these two to contend with. How delightful. Perhaps they'll destroy each other and leave the final triumph to me. And Magneto also thinks, for better or worse, this unholy alliance is forged, and only the fates know if it will save us or prove our total destruction. And so next, the New Mutants find themselves grounded forever. Real quick on this particular story, I don't think Chris Claremont ever uh, does anything with this, because Chris Claremont leaves the New Mutants with issue 54. He just had too much in his plate, and Excalibur, he had to prepare for Excalibur, so he just had to let something go. Plus, he was writing. I think he also had the four-issue limited series, Fantastic Four versus X-Men. So he had that, and so Excalibur was going on, and then the X-Men were going to turn into extra issues during the summer. So his writing thing. So he let go of the New Mutants. Louise Simonson takes over with Brett Blevins as the artist, but Louise Simonson starts like they get costumes, and so they started kind of going off everywhere. Eventually things settle again once Rob Liefeld comes into the New Mutants, um and then they turn into X-Force. Lots of changes, but this particular thread, this particular story with Magneto and the Hellfire Club, to my knowledge, it was never resolved. So we don't know what happened. We just remember that Magneto showed up with Kazar in the Savage Land. Nothing, no explanation. Storm gets her powers. They end up going into the Australian outback. Yeah, I just, for the life of me, do not remember. I mean, even Shaw up here, there was a Sentinel story during the end of Mark Silvestri's run. And no, there's nothing. There's no other what happened. So there's a so this is one of those things where Claremont, where something was presented but it was never developed. So um yeah, it's just weird. So much was put into this issue with no payoff. So New Mutants number 51 by Chris Claremont and Kevin Nowlan. What do you guys think of Kevin Nowlan? He doesn't have a lot of inside work. He's got a ton of covers though, and he does have a lot of work as an inker, and his inking is very powerful, kind of like Bill Sienkiewicz. And when he inks someone, it turns into his stuff. So anyway, like and subscribe, and I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.